Hey everyone, this is Peter. Thank you guys for tuning in to our YouTube channel. This is interview number 7. Again, we have not yet started Cobra Kai Kompanion at this point, and my co-host at the time, Tom, also joined me for an interview with Martin Cove and his business partner, Logan Clark.
This is Martin Cove, a.k.a. John Kreese from The Karate Kid, and you're listening to TV8, My Brain. And if you're not listening to it, there's no mercy for you or anyone else who doesn't listen to TV8, My Brain. Got it.
Welcome to TV8 My Brain, the official TV podcast of Core Temp Arts, the Cobra Kai edition. And I am Peter, also host of Nostalgic.
And I'm Tom, also co-host of a little show called Jake and Tom Conquer the World.
And I don't know, Tom, I think you need to pinch me because we just had an amazing interview with one Mr. Martin Cove and his partner, Mr. Logan Clark.
I don't know how to describe it other than saying that these guys are just awesome. I mean, very laid back, very incredibly friendly, down to earth, well spoken, and just full of great stories.
Incredible stories, and he is such a professional. I kid you not, ladies and gentlemen. So Tom and I, we wrote down a bunch of questions to ask. We are to alternate. Mr. Martin Cove is such a professional. He was answering like most of my questions, so I barely had anything to ask.
I know it was I mean, I've been lucky enough to do a good amount of interviews with a wider variety of people in the entertainment industry, and this might be the easiest interview I've ever done because it's like I was saying to you off mic. After a while, I just wanted to kind of kick back and listen to his stories and just let him go because the guy is entertaining as get all. I mean,
yeah,
just a really cool dude.
Yeah, he really is. And anytime he started answering some of our questions that we had already typed up, I had a secondary question I would ask, and then he'll answer that too. I'm just like, Jesus, like
the guy's a pro.
He really is. So, he talks, Mr. Logan Clark joined the conversation to talk about their CBD pain relief cream, which is called, Marty's Cobra Cove. And, Mr. Cove himself talks about his career, the early days, some stories with some amazing A-listers that you guys will all be familiar with. Talks about Tarantino's new film that he's in. He told us everything, Tom.
Yeah. And I think he even agreed to let me buy him a drink if he ever comes to Detroit again.
He did, which I'll go ahead and tease now some of that stuff that, that particular part is probably left out of the main conversation. But if you guys stay to the very end, I may throw in, not bloopers, but a couple stuff that, again, wasn't part of the main conversation. It was just fun stuff that we thought was really funny. We'll throw it in at the end. So, I don't know, Tom, if you got anything else, I think we'll just go ahead and start the conversation.
Yeah, we've teased it enough. Here we go. As far as myself, you're probably going to think I'm buttering you up, but I'm actually really eager for season 2 because I want to see things from hopefully Kreese's point of view and get maybe some more backstory on him to find out exactly what makes him tick.
Well, they're writing that as we speak. I haven't gotten any information from them other than, I say, are we planning to be a good guy or a bad guy? And they all smile at each other, the writers who are they're really terrific, articulate characters. And Josh Whedon and John. God, I'm leaving town for 12 days. My brain's a little fried. John Hurwitz, yeah, John Hurwitz, right? So they're fantastic, and they proposed this to Ralph and Billy and I. And they wanted me to come in on the 10th episode, and I said, "Why can't I come in on the 5th or the 6th?" And they said, "Because you're going to set up season 2." And I said, "Oh, really?" That was back in September, and they've just motivated themselves to find out everything about our characters better than our knowledge of our own. You know, and to me, it's as exciting. Research and development of a character is at times more exciting than the event of acting. And it's really interesting because looking back at John Kreese, you know, he was such even though everybody loves to hate him and all that, you know, and they respect him. And whenever I would go out with Sly, you know, whether I was doing Rambo or something else, people would challenge him a lot based on Rocky, whatever. But they never challenged John Kreese, you know. There's never someone coming up and saying, hey, man, you know, how good are you in karate? You know, you want to go around? They've never done that. And the reason why is I think that people love to hate this guy or they really respect him, you know. Mm-hmm. But no matter what it is, it's quite interesting because it would be great to have some moments of vulnerability in this coming season because I know very little about what their plans are, but he's not as masterful in a sense. He doesn't have it all together as it always appeared in the movies, you know? Right. There's a little more to him, which is great. There's more to the character. And I really love that stuff because I love to play vulnerability and don't get a chance to play it very much, you know?
Yeah.
I am very interested because I've always had the feeling that real good villains, they aren't born villainous. They're made into villains. And I've always wondered what it was about John Kreese that, you know, set him on that path.
Well, I created my own backstory with John, and then even created, you know, I mean, for all the movies, the backstory was kind of a common knowledge that, you know, he was a great champion in high school and college and all that, and in the Army for karate, and you know, he was just terrific. And then when he went to Vietnam, he wasn't allowed to win like so many of our boys were. They were not allowed to win. Just with politics, because it was such a political war. So he swore that he would never experience that emotionally again, and ultimately vowed and created Cobra Kai, and that's what he endorsed, and you know, basically drove to the ground the concept of mercy is for the weak, here and on the streets. Someone confronts you, he is your enemy. An enemy deserves no mercy. And basically, he lived by that code. And it'll be really interesting now you never lose that, but it'll be really interesting now to see what they have planned of how he vacillates between. Yeah. I mean, the most interesting bad guys I've ever seen are Klaus Maria Brandauer in the Bond movies, or in that wonderful picture he did with Bobby Duvall. It was a remake of Key Largo, I think it was called.
Oh, yeah.
But it was a remake of Key Largo. And he played he played the Edward G. Robinson role. And he was brilliant. But it was that you know, Anthony Hopkins kind of, you just love to hate them. And right. They're eating your skull for dinner. And it's done with such savoir-faire. It's done with such elegance that you want them to eat your head. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You kind of mentioned something that I wanted to touch on before I forget, but you mentioned Bond. Now, you have a story about playing tennis with Sean Connery, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Well, that was a great story. I don't know if I can say all the things that went on the air with the vernacular. The vernacular is somewhat, so I'll substitute the vernacular. But, you know, I was Sean Connery stand-in. I was a stand-in in a movie called The Anderson Tapes, 1972. One of the first jobs I ever had. And then one day, it was like 84, 85, and I'm out here in West LA, and I was looking for a partner to play tennis, and he was there. It was right opposite Fox on Motor Avenue, and we decided to play a little bit. And I walked up to him first, and I said, "Do you remember me? You know, I was just standing in the Anderson Tapes." And he looked at me, he says, "No, I don't." You know, and I said, "Oh, okay, but we can play anyway." So he gets on the court, and he wasn't very good because his back was bad. And this was the beginning of the guy really getting instrumentally. He just had a bad back and played golf for a while. And now I don't think he plays anything. And he's retired. But anyway, he was missing the ball a lot. And I'm hearing on the other side, I can't use the words he used, but it was like, fork, dumb, bitch, bastard. And he's screaming worse than that. And I'm cracking every time he missed the ball. He would scream the lowest form of humanity. The words were really bad words. And yet I was dying on the other side, laughing and cracking up. And I tell this story, and the bottom line was, in my head, I was saying, I'm playing tennis with James Bond.
Right.
And he curses and is as vile a mouth as me, a Brooklyn boy, And I didn't even go to the dark side like he did. But he was having a hard time hitting the ball back. And it was so much fun that this was James Bond, the epitome of the elegant agent. And and he's screaming and yelling in this public park because he's missing the ball, and he's screaming out, heavy-duty vulgarity. But he's a lovely guy, and, eventually I sent him a script for something for the Brian Boru project, and he turned it down because my friends were looking for someone to play Brian Boru for the book Morgan Llewellyn wrote about the conquest of the Vikings in Ireland. But anyway, he was a lovely man, extremely talented fellow, and I miss the fact that I don't see him on the screen anymore,
Oh, yeah.
That's an amazing story.
I went to the gun range with Pierce Brosnan years ago, and it was same
wow.
kind of a flash. You're at the gun range, and you're with Pierce, and you're there, and you're shooting different guns and everything, and you would kind of look over, and you go, God, I'm here with James Bond on the... It was a kick. Real kick. We did that. It was fun. But anyway, I know what you mean. It's very surreal.
Yeah, it's really surreal. And you kind of wonder, these cats have been through so much. Everybody in Hollywood wants to be a star. Everybody, they sometimes they go to class, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they think it's autographs and sunglasses.
Right.
Sometimes they have the wrong idea about how tough the work is. We were talking about this earlier, and people like I remember asking him back on the set of Anderson Tapes. What was it? 13 years earlier. I remember asking him, and I said, I was accepted to the 5th year of NYU to School of the Arts, and I've also been accepted to a classical repertory company. And I remember. He didn't remember me asking him because, God knows, it's been 13 years of people coming up to you and saying, I love your work. So you don't really remember who's who. But I remember his reply was, he says, young man, if you can do Antigone, you can do anything. And meaning if I could do the classics,
right,
I could do anything. So forget about going to school and join the repertory, which I did. And James Mason and I posed the same question to about a month later. I saw him at the airport. And he was also very elegant and sincere. He said the same thing, go out there and play with the big boys. So if there's anybody listening who's an actor, if people don't hire you down the line, keep the dreams going, and it's their mistake, not yours.
Right.
Right.
Now, also on the call, we have a friend of yours, a partner, Mr. Logan Clark. What can you two gentlemen tell us about Marty's Cobra Cove?
Go ahead, Logan. Let him know that Sean Connery has nothing to do with Cobra Cove.
Has nothing to do with it. Marty's Cobra Cove is a CBD cream with a pharmaceutical base and all the oils like eucalyptus and lavender and the different ones. And we spent a year and a half, 2 years. Marty had an injury, which I'll let you he'll tell you about, but he had come to us because we knew. I actually got hired by some foreigners to check into the CBD business and look into it and find out if it was real or not, if all these things. This is back in 2010 or 11. If all these things were true that they were talking about. and that it stopped the shaking of Parkinson's and, et cetera, et cetera. And this was right before Charlotte's Web started. But anyway, we wanted to design it right, and we worked with a chain of chiropractic offices that had deep tissue massage, and the chiropractors, pharmacists, doctors, all kinds of people developing this so that it doesn't have that. Most CBDs are oily and leave a real residue on them. They get on your steering wheel and your clothes. And beyond, working good, they're just uncomfortable to use. And we wanted to get rid of all that. And the response is phenomenal from it. Marty got hurt. He'll tell you he had a real major accident, which we're working on with the cream, but we got to go a little bit deeper than that. Marty, tell them about your accident that you had. Could have been
a long time ago. 1989. I just finished 6 years in Canadian Lacey and a year of hard time on planet Earth, and I went scuba diving and in the Keys in Florida, and we were in a shallow area, and I went down with a hose because it was only 12 feet, but it was a lot of great artifacts down there. It was all treasure hunting, and you find great bolts and you'd find all kinds of cannonballs and things. But unfortunately, they started up the engine, didn't know I was nearby, and sliced about a 12-inch gap in my right forearm.
Oh, man.
So, I had bolts put in and all this. And over the years, there's atrophy that goes on. And it affected, the ulna and a variety of places. But the weakness, you understand the weakness. You can deal with that because you've sliced into bone and you had it put together with bolts. And years went by and it bothered me a little bit, but I was always able to cope. And I went on to do lots of movies and stuff. That was 1989. And then eventually the muscle started bothering me. The muscle started atrophying and the ulna and the shoulder. And I ultimately there was a lot of weakness setting in. I needed shoulder replacements. So I went in for shoulder replacements and had the rotator cuff worked on. But, I don't contribute the relief that the Marty's Cobra Cove gives to bone-on-bone situation. I think that's working out, and that's just how God treats your body. Because when you overdo it and you rock and roll and you're landing on your shoulder and you're landing doing stunts, and you're doing all these crazy things, going down suitcases with the Oakland Raiders going down suitcases in celebrity snow events. I mean, you do 62 miles an hour going down a hill with these crazies, and you get, you do all those things as an actor, and you're willing to, especially as a young actor, you're willing to do a lot of stunts and prove because you don't have a lot of lines and you're just learning about, films. And so, throughout the 70s, I would just do fight scenes that I overlooked. And then when I see them in retrospect, White Line Fever, Capone, God knows how many movies, I see myself landing. I see myself taking a punch in a movie and going up, lofting myself in the air, and then coming down. Well, no more would I loft myself up in the air than I would eat. Than I would, drink acid. I would just, fall down. You get hit in the movie, you fall down. You don't loft yourself up so you can prove that you're good physically and you can handle some embellishment for the scene. Anyway, the bottom line was there was a lot of ailments, and I, met Logan. Logan told me about this product, and I had my doubts because I tried a lot of things to ease the muscle ailment, to ease the muscle tone, and just, not have pain extending my arms to the right and left when I sleep. These are things that muscles hadn't healed correctly around rotator cuffs because I was always doing something to aggravate them. And this product works. It just limits the ache, the pain. It's not like trying all the things we learned about before. The essence of CBD, and it really allows it to be absorbed into the skin, into the muscle, and it does its magic. And I believe
have CDB receptors in our body. they were there when we were born. They just, have to get used to accepting it, into your body, and it works for pain.
Yeah, it really does. And I don't know enough about, the body is so complicated. And I've been to Cleveland Clinic, and I have been to Mayo Clinic. I've gone there to try and figure out why I don't have the muscle mass I used to have. And nobody came up with any answers. But the relief of the aching muscles around the spots. In other words, I didn't have the big muscle mass that I had when I was working out and doing those movies in the 80s and 90s. But I had muscle, but it hurt. The muscle hurt, and it was aching. And this product stopped it from aching. It didn't erase bone on bone.
Huh.
But which is a much deeper problem.
Yeah. To be perfectly honest, this is the best product I've ever tried, and I've hurt myself from playing soccer goalies to baseball to tennis to doing my own stunts to playing with my kids to be doing films in the Philippines like Logan. Those are places they tell you it's going to be okay, and then all of a sudden 5 bodies fall on you from a hilltop.
Right.
And it has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, they shoot guns through the wall. They actually use real bullets.
Oh, God.
Because it's cheaper than the squib.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's cheaper than the squib.
And then if someone gets hurt, if it's not an American, they replace them for $10.
Yep.
And that's what it is. That's just what it is. But that has nothing to do with our product. The product really is terrific because it just works. And I'm not into AMA products. I'm really not into pouring a lot of chemicals into my body. And
the opioid crisis is so bad.
Oh yeah.
Pain pills. People on pain pills now for everything. Anything you can do that is natural and not getting into opioids and stuff is just. And our response is just Marty's Cobra Cove is when doctors and athletes on our website, when people go to our website, martyscobracove.com, they see letters from doctors and weightlifters and stuff that swear by it. And it started working so good, we just decided, well, we got to put this out. Let's get it out on the market. So it's a great cream. We're having a good time with it. It's got a great website. And you should ask Marty about what he's doing lately in the Tarantino movie he just finished.
Yes, yeah. Well, you mentioned that you were doing research. That's one of your favorite parts of movies, almost more so than acting. I've tried to do a little bit of research on your role, but I can't even find the name of a character. And I was wondering if maybe you can shed some light on that, or maybe shed some light on what kind of research you did for that, because obviously it's based on very true events.
Well, that the entire movie is based on true events from. It's all very secretive, number one, so I must say that.
Okay.
No one gets a full script. You only get your scenes with your name across the page, and you have to turn in your cell phone when you go on the set. But there isn't anybody I'd rather work for than Quentin Tarantino. He is just so much fun. I played a character that was a sheriff and did my scenes with Leonardo DiCaprio. And it's the story of a sort of a promo for a TV series that he's going to do, And
Okay.
It takes place in Hollywood in the 60s about actors and the trials and tribulations of actors and the life in the 60s. And this is what I surmise because I have not read the script because it's not been available to me. But the greatest thing in the world is working with a man like Quentin Tarantino, who I wanted to work with him 3 years ago and I didn't, and couldn't. And then big fan of Cobra Kai, big fan of mine for years. Oddly enough, the movie he loves the best is a movie that we did in the Philippines, that we did called Firehawk. This thing I did in 1992.
Oh, yes.
I mean, it's garbage.
Yeah.
But he loves it, and he thought I was brilliant. And said so in front of 500 people at a screening. I told you that story.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is he's a film encyclopedia, And our scene was, was done and choreographed as if we were doing My Darling Clementine with Henry Fonda, and the famous scene where his feet are up against the post and his chair is leaning backwards and he's playing Wyatt Earp. Well, it was the same scene. We both paid homage to something we know well and love Westerns, and he loves Westerns. And Quentin just, finishes shooting, and he turns around and he says, I think I got it. But we're going to do another take. And why? And then the entire crew screams, because we all love to make movies.
Oh, that is awesome. That's amazing.
And, this is what goes on. This is 2 weeks ago I did it. And you feel nothing but happiness that you're included in that wonderful, wonderful ensemble of talent. Al Pacino was on the set, and Brad was on the set, Brad Pitt, and, I met these guys one time or another, but the bottom line is everybody's happy that they're working for Quentin Tarantino. And that night when I got home, what did I see? Inglourious Bastards.
Oh,
on
awesome.
TV.
One of my favorites.
I mean, I'm Jewish, so every Jew wished that really happened to the Nazi high command.
That is awesome.
And that producer is now on my film, Marty.
Yeah, I read it. I remember you told me.
Erica Steinberg. He's now a producer on my film.
It's great.
Love it.
Well, he makes just good movies. As far back as Reservoir Dogs, to this day, I don't remember laughing harder than I did in 1996, 97 on Pulp Fiction. It was the scene in the car when the guy gets blown off.
Yep.
Yeah.
Marvin.
John Travolta and Sam. They're arguing about, you tell me I can't drive? Are you telling me I can't shoot? And the guy's brains are all over the back window. But it's just so bizarre, but yet so funny. And he's great. He's a rock and roller, And I wish there were more directors that we all can work for, because it makes all the pain of being in this business makes it all easier. The rejection makes it all easier.
Now, on one hand, I'm really looking forward to this movie, just because Tarantino is probably my favorite current director. I mean, I would put him right up there with Scorsese. But on the other hand, I'm kind of leery because this is his 9th movie, and he said that after his 10th, he's done. And it's kind of like a book that you're reading that you love and you don't want it to end. That's kind of how I'm feeling with Tarantino's career right now.
I'll tell you, I believe it depends on how well the post-production and production goes, because he really loves making pictures, and I wouldn't second guess him because he's a man's man. But he's a man of his word, but the bottom line is, how many football players retired and came back?
Yeah.
Yeah, look at Michael Jordan.
Jordans went to play baseball.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan went to play baseball. Even worse, he didn't retire. He went to play baseball. And then he came back. And then he came back. And then he did 3 years of brilliance. Yeah. So I believe... Stars. Yep. Yeah, I just believe, and I'm reading that book now about Kobe Bryant's life coach and Michael Jordan's coach. They were the same fellow. And it's really, really interesting. It just... As any artist, if you can't reach a saturation point, if you can't reach a point of being satisfied with your work, whether you're Anthony Hopkins, Bobby De Niro, whomever, if you just keep striving for more and more and more, despite how good you are in certain projects, it's because it's never going to end. In other words, you're never going to be satisfied. And not that it's a bad thing. It doesn't allow oneself too much peace, to be perfectly honest. But the bottom line is that you're always looking to better yourself and the project until you die.
More difficult parts, absolutely, more difficult characters, more complicated characters.
So the reason why I bring that up is, who's to say if Quentin doesn't think this movie is his best, he's not going to retire. If he thinks this is the best, then maybe he'll go and make something that is of a different genre because he's conquered the Western, he's conquered the World War II drama, he's conquered this contemporary piece. You know, he's conquered the gangster movies between Reservoir Dogs and, you know, and the local, you know, drug addict lunatics like in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
So, you know, and there's talk of him doing Star Trek.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is he's not done the Star Trek. He's not done the special effects gig. And, you know, it's up in the air because these cats are the best people to work for because what's important is the art form, not the paycheck, not the names, not, you know, the putting your girlfriend in the lead. It's all about the work.
Yeah. I mean, he even did martial arts with the Kill Bill movies.
Oh, yeah. He definitely, yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. And he didn't want to do it, and he did not want to do it in one volume. For whatever the reason was, that decision, I don't know when that decision was made to do 2 movies, but he did not want to sacrifice one picture and not get everything he needed, whether it was story or whether it was you know, it has to be story. So, you know, he wouldn't compromise and try to do it all in 2.5 hours or something. He says, we got to make another movie. And I bet you the Weinstein brothers didn't like that. I bet you they didn't like that. You know, they didn't care much for that decision, but they had confidence in this guy being a genius. And they were right.
Speaking of martial arts, I want to kind of transition to Karate Kid a little bit and the character of Sensei Kreese. I've heard that you were initially supposed to be the sole antagonist in Karate Kid 3, but they had to write in the part of Terry Silver due to other commitments you had. Do you remember how different the movie was originally supposed to have been prior to the addition of that character?
Well, you know, I think Terry Silver's character, you know, Thomas Ian Griffin, was, you know, he did a decent job. He's, you know, he's a wonderful writer, great martial artist, and pianist, classical pianist. But you can't, the movie for me suffered, and John Avildsen didn't like it at all. The movie for me suffered because you can't disenfranchise the villain. You can't take Darth Vader out of Star Wars and substitute him with some Viking, you know? I mean, you can't do it, you know? You just can't do it. And that was the problem with that movie. Even though there were a lot of good points about that picture, you know, I think everybody liked it less, certainly less than the first one. And it made less than the first 2. And so I do believe, and it was unfortunate because I got a TV series that my agent told me he could always get me out of so I could do the movie. And I really felt that I let down everyone. I was in tears when I was in the room with Jerry Weintraub and Mike Nathanson and head of business affairs and the ADs and John Avildsen. And, you know, the AD said we could do it. We could still do it. And it was a great script. It was my vehicle. It was all about how I created the Sting and trained both kids. And it was very well done. And Robert Kamen told me all about it before I even read it. And it sounded great. And then all of a sudden the agent couldn't get me out of the series deal. And I was the only actor. And I got on the phone with myself that day from that office. I'll never forget it. I got on the phone with Jeff Katzenberg. And I'll never forget what he said to me. He says, it's a Disney series. You're the star. You're the alien that comes down to the planet. And he says, we've got an air date of March. We need to start in December. And you're the only star. And don't get me wrong, Martin. I love you in those Karate Kid movies. But we can't change a thing. So the rest was history, you know. And I kind of, you know, felt like I let down my friends. But I was contractually stuck, just like Tom Selleck was contractually stuck to do Magnum. And Stephen and George wanted him to be Indiana Jones. And he couldn't get out of it. Not to say he hurt 9 years, 11 years.
Right, but yeah, that's true. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so it's just, you know, it's like feast or famine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you never know.
You just don't know. So
and then you do one that you're positive is going to be a huge hit, and it dies. You know, it's nothing.
That was it. I remember thinking Steel Justice was going to be this big deal. Yeah. And when I went to the screening, I'll never forget this. I hated the music so much. Hated the music. And I went to the screening by myself in New York because I was going to see James Earl Jones, and he had given me tickets to Fences that day on Broadway. Right. And it was with my wife and myself, and we went to a 5:00 screening, and then we would leave at 7 and go to the play. I was so emotionally distraught after seeing this movie because of the music, a movie that I was my first romantic lead, my first action thing alone, wasn't with Stallone, it wasn't with anybody else, and boom, I just was crying in the theater because I felt my career was over. Oh. And then the movie went on to make money. It did okay. Oh. I went to Fences that evening. I never forget this. We left. I was so upset I couldn't even think about anything else. We left this brilliant, Wilson play with James Earl Jones doing brilliance on stage in the first act. We left it intermission, and I never went backstage to even thank him for the tickets. Oh. That's how far gone I was at the scene. Yeah, so that's how emotionally involved we get with our projects, Just what happens to the actor. Same thing happens to the musician. You just do what you can do.
I've heard a couple of conflicting stories about when you were first approached with the role of John Kreese. One story I heard was that you were given the script and you thought it was okay, but nothing really special. And then the other version I heard was that you were initially passed over due to some photos. I was just wondering which story was true, and if maybe you could shed some light on how you got that role.
Do you know that story? Have you ever heard that story?
No.
I've never got this. God, all these stories are coming up. God,
that's amazing.
Yeah, amazing. Until I do these radio shows and TV shows, I never think about that. All you think about is, what's the next one? What's the next project? You don't think about all the stuff that's come through your life. And my son tries to remind me of that, Yep. But that one was a good one because that one, he overlooked my picture. And a friend of mine came to the house one day, and he says, "You should go up for this role." And I said, "What is it?" And he says, "They want a guy. They think I'm too frail looking. They want a really strong guy for this movie, Karate Kid." And so I called the agent. The agent said, "No, he passed on you. Didn't like your picture." So then I called my PR guy, and I said, "You know the casting woman and this project. Can you finesse and get me in there?" And he did. And she did him a favor, even though John Avildsen passed over my 8x10. And those were the days when, used to be 8x10. Anyway, the bottom line is I get the script. She gives me the script. She said, "You meet the director in at the end of the week." So that was Monday. All of a sudden I get a call Tuesday morning. "It's now or never. You got to come in and see him. You got to come on the set." I said, "Come on the set? I just got the script yesterday." He said, "You got to come on the set." I remember her saying to me twice, "It's now or never. It's now or never." So I'm livid. So I go to my wife and I say, "These people are impossible." And I was really angry. And she says to me, "I want you," and the scene was marching up and down the dojo. "Mercy is for the weak, here and on the streets," all that in the dojo the first time you see me. So that's the scene. And she says, "Use how you feel about these people and tell them how you feel about them. You feel this venom. Just, recite those lines with all that anger that you feel right now, that you got to go in at 12 o'clock and do this."
Right.
And I said, "Okay." So I go in there. And Caro Jones is there, the casting woman, and John Avildsen. So I say, "John, you're a real asshole. We wait for years to meet directors of your caliber, and we fire our agents and we fire our managers just to meet guys like you because they don't ever give us a chance to do that in the A market. But you're a real asshole, and so are you, Caro Jones. Mercy is for the weak, here and on the streets." I go right into it, right? He stops me. He loves me. Sends me to Jerry Weintraub. Jerry Weintraub's 4 days late to the meeting. So I finally get to the meeting with Weintraub, standing in there, and I say, "I got nothing to lose. I'm on a hiatus from Cagney and Lacey. I don't even like the title of this movie, and this just sounds like a Bruce Lee picture, and I'm playing just another bad guy." So I say to Jerry, "Jerry, We wait to meet producers like you, and you're 4 days late for this meeting. You're a real asshole, and so are you, Carol Jones. Mercy is for the weak, blah, 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 blah. Stops me halfway through, says, go see Guy McElwain. Guy McElwain's the head of Columbia Pictures, right? So I have to go see Guy McElwain now, and he's not in his office, so I have to do it to a tape. So I get all upset, screaming and yelling in the bathroom, go on the set with Pat and Rita. They film it, they send it to McElwain, who was never going to say no anyway, if Jerry and John wanted me. So ultimately got the part. That was the, and right now in my library, I'm looking at the video of this screen test because someone sent it to me, a VHS of it. But that's the honest truth about how I got the part in Karate Kid.
Great story.
That is amazing.
Now, are you surprised at the longevity of the Karate Kid franchise? Like, what do you think is about these movies and characters that continue to draw new generations to them?
The fact that we go on panels all the time, and we do a variety of things on panels, and it's always the same stuff comes up all the time. It comes up that they love karate. They love Karate Kid because they were a fish out of water in 1984. They had a romance that didn't work. Well, they were bullied. That's it. One of those three was always pertinent to someone who loved the show, someone who recommended the show to their kids and their kids. And, I've done so many different events for children, and kids walk up to you and say, my daddy says you are a iconic villain, and I should take a picture with you. I mean, kids don't even know how to spell iconic,
That's great.
That's
great.
But the bottom line is it meant a lot to a lot of people. And over the years, they related how much it meant because you'd see it occasionally on TV and cable and all that. And then, it would play all the time and on television, and it had so much for so many people. And there are so few movies that we can consider classics now.
Yeah.
I mean, if we wanted to say in the 40s and the 50s, you could say Casablanca, Maltese Falcon, Treasure of the Sierra Madre, guys like Cary Grant and James Stewart and Humphrey Bogart were privileged enough to have 4, 5, 6 classics to their belt. Nowadays, maybe Harrison Ford's got the most, or Leonardo DiCaprio, but Raiders of the Lost Ark and Star Wars, and that's about it. 2 is all you get.
On average, yeah.
Yeah. So I've got Rambo and Karate Kid, but still, it's not my favorite. Casablanca is the perfect movie, and it just, we can include Titanic in that list and probably, but the bottom line is they don't make movies like they used to anymore. And the thing is, it's now more of mechanics and special effects, but no need to go there. The story is that I believe that movie has a great deal to say to a lot of people, and keep saying it because it was written so well by Robert Kamen that we're 30 years later, we're saying no mercy, sweep the leg, wax on, wax off. We're still using the dialogue.
Yeah.
We're still, it's the same guy that created Cool, back in the 50s, after John, I think the first cool guy was John Garfield, and then Brando, and then James Dean, and then McQueen. So the bottom line was, where those really good words stay with us, whether they sweep the leg or it's just, hey man, you're a pretty cool cat, or it's something coming right out of Blackboard Jungle,
Yeah.
So, so these classic moments, these classic words stay with us. And that's why I think the longevity of this picture, to answer your question, the longevity of this picture, it's endless. It's endless. And with, of course, Cobra Kai, that if the words were not written as well as the movies, there's no way this thing would have gone Rotten Tomatoes at 100%. 24 reviews, 40 million people watching it in the first 3 weeks. There's too many other good things on to compete with.
Yeah, it was amazing just how well that was produced and how well it was received. And like I said, I'm chomping at the bit for season 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then Cobra Kai picked up so well. I mean, it was received so incredible. That new series, just they put that together with an incredible cast. The kids of Macho. I mean, it's just they figured it out fantastically, and they just mold together.
I went to a comic book convention panel that was headed by William Zabka the week after Cobra Kai debuted, and it was like being in a rock concert. He was so over with that crowd. It was so fun to see that.
Yeah, and Billy does a great job.
Oh yeah,
and and to this day, he'll. I think I'll see him, and we're going to an autograph show tomorrow morning. I'm going to see him in North Carolina. Where are we going? God, I can't even think of it. But in any case, we're in North Carolina and do an autograph show. And first one Ralph and I and Billy have done together since the opening of the show. So it'll be interesting,
Oh, yeah.
And it'll be a lot of fun. And, I look forward to seeing everybody. And we all have a lot of respect for each other. And I think, everybody is so blown away by what a great job he did with the work. I mean, I come on and, do what I do at the end. But the thing is, he carried 10 episodes.
He brought so much humanity to what was at the time kind of a, not a very fully fleshed out character, and he rounded it out and made it relatable, which, I mean, that is just a hell of a feat that he pulled.
Absolutely. And I don't know, to this day, because we're always so busy, sitting down and chatting with Billy about how much directors helped him, because Josh and Hayden and John, they directed most of those 10 shows. And they did it together, and these guys are great. I mean, to have 3 people who don't have fragile egos, 3 people who are just there to prove a point of something they love. It's like Costner. Everything Costner does is a Western. Whether it's The Postman, whether it's Yellowstone, whether it's Dances with Wolves, whether it's Revenge, or it's the one we did with Whitney Houston. Somehow it's a Western. No matter what you see Kevin do, it's a Western. And he has his influence on something that makes you feel that we're out in the West. It's a situation. It might be 1945, might be 1985, but we're out in the West with Kevin. So anyway, that's these guys wrote great stuff. He acted terrific. I don't know how much they helped him. I'll find out more because I'm going to be there now for the entire 3 months.
Oh, awesome.
We'll see exactly how these guys dealt with it last year, because I'm a little prima donna, so I really need as much help as I can get. So I'll see how it all works, and I'm a team player, but they shoot block shooting and they shoot 6-7 days per episode. And they're only 30 minutes, which isn't a minimum amount of time. I mean, 6-7 days to 30 minutes is good.
Oh, nice. We used to do 6-7 days and do an hour show.
Yeah, and that's just the history of the show, and I believe the perception of the show. And I think Billy's going to have a great career, and he's very creative anyway. We've had a lot of fun together, and he's very creative with a lot of his projects. And I think now he'll be able to sell other things because he's a wonderful editor and director. And Ralph is very strong in the show. I found Ralph really solid.
Yeah,
really solid.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely get ready to wrap this up. I do just kind of want to touch on the cream just once again to kind of come back to that. Having both you, sir, Mr. Logan Clark, and Martin Cove together. Now, with it being CBD, is there like an age limit where people have to be in order to buy this product?
I believe to get CBD, you have to be 18 years old. In some states, it might be 21. But certainly you have to be at least 18 in some states, and then in others you have to be 21. It really depends on the state, the way they break down the state. But CBD is becoming more and more acceptable, more and more with the Farm Act, with the Farm Act, and just more and more they're passing things to try to decriminalize hemp and the extracts and everything. So, and our factory is in Nevada. Our factory's in Nevada. Our product is manufactured there. It is sent out from there. Our general offices are there. Our bank accounts are there. So we have it's much more conducive in Nevada to to CBD or anything really. But it's a wonderful cream, and it speaks for itself. CBD or Marty's CobraCove.com, and it is dynamite.
And that concludes the conversation with Mr. Cove and Mr. Clark. So I want to thank the gentlemen again for coming on the show and telling us amazing stories. And also, I just want to give a little shout out to Carly, who runs the Twitter account for Marty's Cobra Cove as well. She's the one who's been putting us in contact and kind of organizing the schedule for the interview. So I want to give a shout out to her as well.
Yes, thank you very much. And once again, definitely check out the product that they're talking about. It sounds really interesting, especially the older I get and I'm starting to get those aches and creaks that a typical 40-year-old gets. You can find it again at martyscobracove.com.
Yeah, we'll have it in the show notes as well. And there was something that he mentioned that was very interesting to me. He mentioned as something to kind of help with the Parkinson's as well. So I hope, further studies can use that product for Parkinson's. So myself being a huge Back to the Future fan and Michael J. Fox being an idol of mine, I hope that this is some sort of step in the right direction to helping, with Parkinson's as well. So is an amazing thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything that we can do to get the word out about that, by all means.
So, yeah, Tom, I'm still wrapping my head around that we just talked to, Mr. Sensei Kreese himself.
Yeah.
Cagney and Lacey, Rambo. Like, again, he touched on things that we wanted to bring up. Wow.
Yeah, and very, very generous with his time. If you are hearing this, Mr. Cove, thank you again. Logan, if you're hearing this, thank you to you as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. So that's going to conclude this episode, and we hope that this reaches, perhaps Ralph and Billy, maybe sometime down the line we can speak to them.
Yeah, Martin Cove can vouch for us now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will be seeing all three of them at the Rose City Comic Con here in Portland in September.
Oh.
So I'm definitely looking forward to
You
that.
have to press some palms, hand out some business cards.
Sure. I just hope he remembers me, Mr. Cove, when I go say hello. So I'm definitely going to try to take a picture with all three of them and maybe meet them at their booth and just say hello. So
very cool.
I can't thank Mr. Cove enough for his generous time speaking to us and just, again, sharing amazing stories. I'm just repeating myself because it's so surreal that we talked to an iconic character. And a great man.
Very cool guy.
So if you are tuning in to our coverage for the very first time, we did cover all 10 episodes of the first season of Cobra Kai, individual episodes. We kind of tore down scene by scene, discussed the dialogue, and just a very analytical coverage of Cobra Kai. And Mr. Cove is our seventh interview with a cast member, and that's it for me. So if you haven't already done so, please follow us on our Twitter account at Cobra Kai Pod. There's a link on there somewhere that is a one-stop shop. There's a page that I posted on WordPress that has all of our reviews and all that good stuff too. And we also have a group page, www.CobraKai.tvamb group, and you spell out the 2 periods there.
All right. What about your personal Twitter account?
That is going to be at Paulstalgic if you want to follow me there. Tom joined me sometime last year to cover all 4 Karate Kid movies, and that's the reason that we are doing the Cobra Kai coverage. Mm-hmm. So, we have at the time of this recording, we have one more interview lined up, and we have another one that could possibly happen in the new year. So that's a little tease there. Mm. And what about you, Tom? Where can listeners get a hold of you?
Well, you can find me at Twitter at The Drunken Dork. You can also find me on Facebook at Jake and Tom Conquer the Group, and you can hear episodes of Jake and Tom Conquer the World every Sunday wherever you find podcasts.
All right, and I want to thank everyone for their continued support, and hopefully the new listeners can check out our previous coverage. So until then, we'll see you next time. Are you surprised at the longevity of the Karate Kid franchise? Like, what do you think is about these movies and characters that continue to draw new generations to them?
That sounds like a question you typed out.
If you wanted to throw in a no mercy, I wouldn't stop you.
Or sweep the leg, something like that.
Well, I say sweep the leg, Logan cries, so I won't say sweep the leg. Logan cries. He goes and gets his gun when I say no mercy. He gets his gun when I say no mercy. But if I say sweep the leg, because he can't dance, he cries. And so the bottom line is I can only say no mercy. I can't say sweep the leg.
That's
fair enough.
All right, so
that was amazing.
I just peed my pants.
Excellent.
Let's put a check in the mail. Residuals, just send it to Logan. He needs it.
You got it.
He's got no money for food. Yeah, Logan has no money for food.
I will see you in Portland in September.
Okay, very good. I'll be there.
Yep, and
take it easy.
If you ever make it out to Detroit again, I will love to buy a beverage of your choice or something.
All right.
I love Detroit. I did Streetcar Named Desire in Detroit, in Rochester.